Hello, WK page. I am George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here for Weather Now, Kentucky. We do have an update for you regarding tonight's severe weather threats. I know there's some confusion about what to expect for tonight, so I wanted to go ahead and do a really quick, brief live video here. I want to stay off the air so that you guys know when we do go live, it's more inclement from here on out. So I'm just going to do a real quick breakdown and rundown here because we've already have several posts on our page of information on what to expect, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook, or even the videos that we've done already today. They're already all over Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So we're going to just do a real quick rundown of some things that may have changed. Overall, though, the forecast is still relatively the same, just a little bit delayed on the timing. Like I mentioned earlier today, it wasn't a matter of if storms would pop; it was a matter of just when. So now we have a better idea on what to expect and when to expect it, and how bad to expect it in some places. So as always, before we dive into the information, I'm going to give it about 30-40 seconds before we start getting really big into the information here. Of course, as always, if you wouldn't mind, tap the share button at the bottom portion of your screen over there. If you're on Facebook, this is a serious night, so we want to make sure we're getting the message spread as much as possible. The best way you can help us doing that is by hitting the share button, genuinely, guys. So you're going to hear me ask it a lot tonight, whether it's on this broadcast or the future broadcast. So just might as well just go ahead and do it so you can shut me up about it. So thank you guys a lot for your help with doing that. While we're waiting another 20-30 seconds or so, I'm going to say hi to as many folks as I can. Nancy, Cheap Shot over there on YouTube. Hello, how are you doing? Melissa, Lisa, Summer, thank you for tagging all your friends. Tara, hello over there on Facebook. How are you guys doing? The shares are starting to go up now. I love to see it. Thank you guys. Thank you again for all the likes on both Facebook and YouTube as well. Again, if you're just now tuning in here, I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with WNK. You haven't missed a thing. We haven't gone into the information yet on what to expect. We do have our updated forecast to show you. We're also going to show you the Storm Prediction Center's forecast as well. If you somehow missed it over the last 20 minutes, a new tornado watch has been issued as well, so we'll go over that. And lastly, we'll look at the actual model data for you. So if you're just not tuning in here, you have not missed a thing. Sit tight for 1 second, and then we'll go into the information here. Caitlin, thank you for your 100 stars. I appreciate your kindness there, as well as all of you folks sharing the stream. I appreciate that a ton. So again, if you're just not tuning in, we're gonna just make this a big, or not a big, a real quick breakdown of what to expect. Again, if you do miss anything, we have tons of information all over our page for you guys to view. So if you do miss anything in this broadcast, just know that it's all already just it's kind of just a quick recap, as well as showing you things that may have changed. Overall, that all said, let's go ahead and dive into the information here and make this a real quick update for you. Real quickly, before I do dive into it, I want you guys to know that when things do start to get a little bit more hazardous tonight, we will be live throughout the entire event doing coverage with you guys, whether it's here or on YouTube. On YouTube, I wish I could pull it over, but our name, you should be able to just search Weather Now Kentucky on YouTube if you want to subscribe to us over there. In case you want to throw us up on your TV tonight instead of holding us in your hand on your phone on Facebook, the best way to do that is just go to your smart TV, launch the YouTube application, and go to our channel. That's the easiest way to do that. Also, real quickly before I go into this as well, I want to make sure that you guys know that we are on Twitter. This is how we'll get the fastest alerts out. Cherie and Mike are going to be working on the Twitter for us tonight. We've already gotten our roles identified for tonight at Weather Now KY on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. It's the quickest way to get you guys alerts. You know, Facebook's always going to be our home. YouTube's always going to be fun. But Twitter or X is technically the quickest way that we can get you guys alerts outside of a live broadcast. So make sure you go follow that. Again, Cherie and Mike will be handling that for us tonight. So now that we got all that good stuff out of the way, I'm actually going to open up our home radar here and start with the tornado watch for you guys. In case you missed it, there is a pretty large tornado watch that actually extends all the way from Michigan down to Kentucky. I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe goes a little bit south into Tennessee. I'm not quite sure on that just yet. But overall, everyone in pink under a tornado watch until 3 a.m. Eastern time. I do believe that over here toward northeastern Kentucky is technically 1 a.m. Eastern time, but they'll probably extend that to match it with this one. Basically, from all of western Kentucky, all of central Kentucky, and all of north eastern Kentucky. Southeastern Kentucky, do I expect this to expand to you? Well, just take a look at our forecast for tonight. Our forecast actually almost matches the tornado watch that came out. Remember, we made this forecast about 3 hours ago. The tornado watch just came out a little bit ago. So our forecast kind of matches the tornado watch almost verbatim, which is pretty cool. But that said, I don't really expect it to get expanded down to you. I can't rule it out, but I don't really expect that to occur. Again, can't rule it out, but if there is a watch for you, it would likely be a severe thunderstorm watch, which is still something you need to respect. But I don't think it's going to be in the way of a tornado watch. But if you're just not tuning in, a tornado watch is active until 3 a.m. Eastern time, so quite a long night ahead. And of course, we have another round coming tomorrow on Wednesday. So tornado watch is out of the way, Twitter is out of the way, YouTube's out of the way. Let's take a look at the live radar here, and then we'll go over the forecast from us, the SPC, and we'll look at the model data. So overall, the radar right now kind of quiet throughout Kentucky, although we do have a tornado warning that just actually includes Kentucky and might have just went up. Yeah, it just went up. Wow, that was good timing for us to go live then. Tornado warning has been issued for northwestern Lewis County and northeastern Kentucky and southern Adams County and south central Ohio. So this is on the way out of Kentucky. Let's go and take a real quick look at this. Since it's on the way out of Kentucky, I won't pay a whole lot of attention to it. Let's take a look at it real quickly. So there is absolutely some rotation there on this one. Pretty clear. I wouldn't say this is anything strong, but I would say that it's actually some pretty clear rotation that we're seeing on the radar there. So pretty good warning there by those folks out of the National Weather Service, I believe Wilmington office over there and eastern Kentucky. Now, again, that is on the way out of Kentucky, so we're not going to focus a whole lot on it too much, but just know if you're over here toward this area, actually, I have no nameplates. Oh, that's why. Can you get off? Thank you. Over there on the eastern side of Maysville, going toward Concord, Manchester, Ohio, and Rome, right along the border there. If you were in those areas, just know you are under a tornado warning for the next 47 minutes. But once again, that's on the way out of Kentucky, and it doesn't look too impressive on radar, but there is enough there to kind of go ahead and give it a warning. Severe thunderstorm warning exists just to the south of that in Flemingsburg and Ewing. That's likely for hail, if I had to guess. Yes, 60-mile-per-hour winds. Radar indicated tornadoes also possible within this, but it is not tornado warned. So those are your two cells at the moment starting to get going out there in eastern Kentucky. Once again, not super impressive cells, but just enough to warrant a warning out there for eastern Kentucky on the way out toward Ohio. So we're not going to cover that too much. Other ways in the area here. Central Kentucky, pretty empty. Everywhere else in Kentucky, pretty empty at the moment. Southern Indiana, things are starting to get going up there. And if I were to switch radars out here toward Western Kentucky, you can start to see some of the cells are starting to get going out there. Most notably out here toward Benton, just north of that, going to the east of Ritalin. And then just to the north, or just to the south of Princeton, I should say. Now, those don't look like anything impressive, but these are how cells start. You know, usually in Kentucky, we usually get storms that are left over from other places. Pretty rare for us to actually get a storm to start over us. So if you don't know, this is kind of how they always look when they first start. So this is a pretty good sign that the cap that we talked about earlier is starting to break. That jet stream is starting to get more positioned to favor severe potential in Kentucky. And so over the next 90 minutes or so, I'll bet you this radar begins to pop up. But again, I want to keep this briefing short with you guys. So again, that's on the way out of Kentucky. I'm not going to worry about that too much because, you know, we just only cover Kentucky. So what's our forecast look like? What's the SPC's forecast look like? Let's start with the SPC's first. Let's go ahead and click that refresh button. Not much has changed. I do believe an update comes out on this literally, I think, right now. So might be able to catch it before the end of the video. But I don't expect this to change too much. Overall, I think the risk map is pretty good by the National Weather Service. I don't understand why they shaved the western side of the enhanced off. That should have stayed enhanced, in my opinion. But nonetheless, you're kind of just splitting hairs at this point when you're talking about forecast colors, if you will. So 10% or a 10 to 14% tornado risk does exist for basically north of the parkways going toward north central and northeastern Kentucky. Also, a greater than or equal to 10% probability of a significant tornado does exist in that same region. This brown for pretty much all the rest of Kentucky is a 5 to 9% risk for tornadic activity. Also to note with you tonight, 2.5-inch diameter hail size up to that marker. So basically, what would that be? Tennis ball sized hail is kind of the max threat for hail size tonight. That's rather large. That's absolutely severe hail. Anything I believe above golf ball size starts to get toward that significant area. But overall, a greater than 10% risk, once again, of significant hail in that same area. So all hazards are truly possible tonight in Kentucky. Just real quickly, this is the Wednesday's outlook here. You can see pretty much all of Kentucky under the gun once again for Wednesday. We're not going to touch that too much in this broadcast because we want to focus one day at a time here. But overall, Wednesday does look like another substantial threat in the state. So, that all said, let's take a real quick look at the model data, and then we'll go look at our forecast here that WNK made. So this is valid for 8 p.m. Eastern time. Let's go ahead and skip this one ahead one time here. This is valid for 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can tell the model data is struggling a smidge just because when we go to actually open up the radar here. So I'm going to pull us back to the central view here. A lot of what the radar is seeing, so it's north of the river, right? North of the river, north of the river, north of the river. Cell out here in eastern Kentucky is quite strong. But a lot of this actually has these cells south of the river. So what's actually happening right now is about 30 to 40 to 50 miles north of where the model data projected it. Now, if that's a trend, then we have to watch that carefully. Does it really matter right now? Not really, because these cells are on the way to the north anyway. They wouldn't have actually impacted Kentucky. So eventually, these storms will turn from right now. These storms are traveling northeast, and now they're beginning to turn more east. So that's what we're noticing at this moment is that the storms are now beginning to turn. That low pressure is starting to become more southerly, and it's forcing the storms to go left to right as opposed from bottom to top. So that's kind of why we know that the storms are beginning to pop off soon because the winds are beginning to turn at the surface and aloft. So this is actually going to skip this forward to 9 p.m. Eastern time. You see more of those cells beginning to pop up out to the western side of the river there. And then as it pushes forward to 10 p.m. Eastern time, we have a big cluster of supercells pushing into north central Kentucky, basically focusing around the Breckenridge and Meade counties area, exiting the Daviess County area, heading toward Hardin County and Jefferson County. Then as we head toward 11 p.m. Eastern time, we have a problem because these are massive hail cores that are showing up toward, let's say, Radcliffe, Vine Grove, Fort Knox, Muldrow, West Point going up toward Louisville, and then back out toward Breckenridge County as well, and then going once again back out toward Daviess County, another cell down here toward, let's say, the Murray area going toward Princeton, Kentucky. Now, again, don't take these locations 100% verbatim because, once again, radars or a model data projected what's currently happening to be a little bit more south than what it actually is. So you can't take the location on the model data absolutely verbatim, but you can understand that a general outlook can be applied to it. So just know that a cluster of cells that are going to be significantly strong are absolutely possible just south of the river. Where exactly they line up, obviously yet to be seen, but just know that's possible. And by the way, model data has been showing this cluster of storms for about 10 runs now. So pretty good confidence that somewhere just south of the river might get slammed by some large hail, perhaps a couple of strong tornadoes, and some really strong winds. So let's go ahead and push this on forward to 11 p.m. Eastern time. You can see those, they kind of just stall right there for a little bit. So we'll have to be on the lookout, basically from Radcliffe to, or Elizabethtown to Radcliffe to Meade to Breckenridge County, back over toward Daviess, along the river here. We'll have to be on the lookout for not only all that severe stuff we're talking about, but for the potential, the real potential of some significant flash flooding by about midnight to 1 a.m. Eastern time. As that pushes on forward to 1 a.m. Eastern time, you see that line still sits there. It's still showing several hail cores within that line. So for places in north central Kentucky, northwestern Kentucky, it could be quite a long 3 to 4 hour stretch for you if this pans out exactly like the model data is showing. So as we push this on forward to 2 a.m. Eastern time, now the storm line is beginning to turn a little bit more. We're getting more of a line. Remember, back before just a couple hours ago, it was a lot more spotty, right? A lot more discrete is the technical term for it. As we push it on forward a few hours here, you can see it turns into more of a line and starts to drop more south. And that's where the threat for central and south central, southwestern Kentucky starts to come into play. Hell core here, hell core here, hell core here, multiple hell cores out here. And again, a lot of these storms will be rotating tonight. There's no doubt that there is an insane amount of rotational energy out there, to put it in very layman terms. There was an insane amount. So a lot of these storms will be, the majority of these storms will be rotating tonight. The question is, will they be rotating above the surface or will they be rotating at the surface? Why does that matter? Well, rotating above the surface typically leads to large hail and damaging winds. Rotating at the surface usually leads to your tornadoes and your extremely large hail. So that's why the difference of where they're rotating at is going to matter. And honestly, we won't know that until the storms actually start going. That's the pure, honest answer for you. This is actually valid for 4 a.m. Eastern time. That line begins to drop around the parkways, heading towards southern portions of Kentucky. And as it does that, it will start to weaken eventually around the 4 to 5 a.m. time frame as it drops all the way down out of Kentucky to Tennessee. And then we have our problem for Wednesday, because now, instead of the storm line dropping south, now it's turning and the storm line is pulling back to the north. So it's actually going to be almost the same storm line between now and tomorrow. The difference is the storms were going like this. They were going like this earlier today, bottom to top. Now they're going like this, west to east. Then they'll go like this, north to south, and then they'll turn and start going back up. It's actually a pretty complex thing, and that's why we have not put a forecast out for Wednesday just yet. Because truly, guys, what happens tonight will affect what happens tomorrow, and how we start tomorrow morning will affect Wednesday afternoon and evening. Basically, what I mean by that is we have to really pay attention to the clouds tomorrow, how far north the warm front lifts. The warm front right now is situated in Tennessee. If it lifts all the way up to Kentucky or Indiana border, well, then all of Kentucky is at play for probably quite the severe risk for tomorrow. If that warm front only comes to, let's say, Paducah or Bowling Green, well, then just Paducah and Bowling Green to points to the south is involved and is quite the significant severe threat tomorrow. So a lot of questions still not answered for tomorrow, which is why we haven't not touched too much on it just yet. Overall, our forecast for tonight, not much has changed from our post earlier here. A 4 out of 5 risk does exist for portions along the river. You saw for yourself why that 4 out of 5 risk is there. And again, up there for northeastern Kentucky, because once that line that's currently happening, by the way, let's go ahead and show you real quickly. Once this line that's currently happening in southern Indiana, that will attempt to connect. And when it attempts to connect, it will form a line, and that will impact northeastern Kentucky and be quite strong. So that's why there's a 4 out of 5 risk there. For those of you that are asking why Louisville is gapped in that 4 out of 5 risk, well, somewhere in this line, okay, when it actually forms, there will be a gap. So you'll have this line that affects this portion of Kentucky, and then you'll have a gap, and then you'll have a line here that will impact this portion of Kentucky. Right now, and throughout the last few hours, it's looking like Louisville will be that gap. Now, that's not to say Louisville won't see a storm tonight, but the overall threat is a little bit lower in my opinion because there will be a gap somewhere. Now, that gap could sit up a little bit less than that. The gap could be right there. The gap could be right there. But at the moment, the gap looks to be the Louisville area. So that's kind of what we're looking at there for that, folks. And that's why we've dropped them down to a 3 out of 5 and haven't. That's why you see a little gap there that may have been confusing for some folks. But overall, just know the risk is there. The colors don't really matter that much anymore, guys. It's just more about paying attention to the risks. So here was our risk map for tonight. Speaking of that, get a little segue there. I'm getting better at that. Tuesday, 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, 7 p.m. may have been a little bit early on the gun there. Might be more like 9 p.m. But these storms just keep getting delayed a little bit. Now, again, in my opinion, that doesn't really change too much because we're dealing with so much energy out there, guys. Where I mean, if you go step outside, you can just feel it. You just feel it. It's not going to matter what time they come. Okay, it's just a matter of when they come. Okay, near 7 p.m., more like 9 p.m. now. Supercells will pop in western and central Kentucky. These cells will pose a 10% tornado threat, 30% large hail threat, and damaging wind threat somewhere within those zones. It does not mean every single person in that pink zone is going to see large hail and damaging tornadoes. Okay, it's just somewhere in that pink zone. We'll make that very clear. Over here on the right side, you see our threat chart there. I want to break this down what this means real quickly. So you'll see the different colors on the tornado side where it has the 2 reds and the purple. So the 2 reds means a 2 out of 5 risk for the red zone, right? The purple means a 3 out of 5 risk for the purple zone for tornadoes. Okay, wind threat was dropped a little bit, probably left it at 4. Doesn't really matter at this point. The hail threat is a 3 out of 5 risk for red, for all red, yellow, and purple. 4 out of 5 risk is just for the purple zone only. So that's kind of how that works on the threat chart in case you didn't know how that worked there. So that's overall the real quick breakdown. I'm going to check this radar one more time. Just kind of check what's happening out here in eastern Kentucky before we hop off and make sure there's nothing. Okay, it's out of Kentucky now. And quite honestly, that doesn't really look like anything impressive. Even when they brought the tornado warning out for it, it didn't look that impressive. So overall, the threat is nothing immediate for Kentucky. You see everything's moving north and east. Eventually, these cells that are popping about here toward Cape Girardeau, Missouri, going toward Illinois, those will turn more east and push storms to start around Owensboro, Evansville, Henderson, and then those storms will move toward the Radcliffe, Elizabethtown areas, including Meade and Breckinridge County, and that's kind of how our night will evolve. So overall, nothing too much different in this update versus what we've talked about. Why is my camera so unbelievably blue? Oh my goodness. 1 second. That's going to give me a headache if I keep seeing that. Oh, that's why the brightness got turned up on my lights for some reason. It didn't really make a difference, did it? That's a little bit better. Jeez. I look like a smurf there for a second. But yeah, nothing much has really changed. I'm not going to go into a lot of town by town by town questions because I want to keep this update real brief. Because I want you guys to know when we go live from here on out tonight, there is an immediate impact. So I'm going to take a couple of questions real quickly, and then we're gonna cut it. Corey, thanks for the 20 stars. I appreciate that. Did you have that Red Bull? I don't drink Red Bull. I drink Monster. But no, I've actually got a pot of coffee going right now. I've actually only had sweet tea and water so far. Right now, I'm running off of complete adrenaline. Corey, thank you for your 400 stars, my friend. I appreciate you so much, dude. Thank you so much. Brittany with the 100 stars, thank you so much for those stars as well. Thank you guys for all the shares and all the likes so far. Let's see here. No one is in the clear, by the way. For all those of you that are already asking about in the clear, no one, this hasn't even started yet. What's caused the severe weather to be worse this year than normal for Kentucky? I wouldn't say it's worse this year. We have a tornado warning, by the way. This is not in Kentucky, but this is what we're talking about. Things are starting to get rolling here, guys. We have a tornado warning while we're talking here. It's not in Kentucky, but we'll touch on it real quickly. I know there's Ivy Corridon is in the path of this tornado, by the way. Let's go take a look at the model or the actual radar here and take a look at some rotation here. I'm not seeing a whole lot. I mean, there's definitely some. It's got the early signs of it. So I'm not gonna go full on my soapbox here. It's got the early signs of it. Let's watch this for a minute here while we talk, okay? Let's watch this for a minute here while we talk. What changed in the past few hours to make tonight worse than it was a few hours ago? Caitlin, I don't think much has changed to make it worse. So far, our forecast has gone as planned, with the exception that there was no afternoon, which kind of caught us by surprise, just because there was a ton of energy out there. We thought there would be at least 2 or 3 supercells that popped up this afternoon. Other than that, everything is going as forecasted so far. Let's see here. Dylan on YouTube says, "Do you think that we will see a level 4 out of 5 risk from the SPC tomorrow, or will we stay at 3?" I do think, I don't know where, but somewhere between northern Tennessee to middle Kentucky, to western Kentucky, somewhere in that triangle, there will be a 4 out of 5 risk. If there is not, I don't know what to tell you. Kayla on YouTube says, "Can you define radar indicated?" Yeah, that's pretty simple. So there's different types of warnings, actually. Not a lot of people know this. You either have your radar indicated warnings or your observed warnings. So radar indicated means that where they're seeing rotation on radar and there's signs pointing toward a tornado happening on radar. An observed warning means it has actually been observed by a human being and reported to the NWS. So that's the differences there. Meade has a possible, I don't see anything for Meade. Telling you there is a substantial storm threat for tomorrow. No, there's not a warning. Wait, that is actually catching the most northern tip of Meade County. I apologize. I apologize. That is actually catching the most northern tip of Meade County that I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, so it's catching the very, very northern tip up there by Leavenworth. So if you're anywhere in the 98 other percent of Muldrow or Meade County, you're fine. It's just really catching the, and quite honestly, I don't think it really needed to be included there because it's heading northeast. Going to head away from that. But yes, no, you are technically included in a tornado warning, but it's literally for the top. What is this? It's literally for the top 2.1 miles of the county. So other than that, you're fine. Sorry if you guys. I'm finishing up my sweet tea real quick. Trying to keep my voice a little bit more ready tonight. It's gonna be a long night. Charlotte, everyone is at risk for severe weather tonight. I can just tell you, Ashley, that the tornado watch goes all the way until 3 a.m. Eastern time. Alexandria, you are under a tornado watch till 3 a.m. Eastern time, so hopefully it tells you what you need to know there. What are the blue dots down by E-Town and Fort Knox? Like you're talking about this little mess right here. These are just clouds, probably. Maybe a light little sprinkle right there. That's our base here. Those are the only blue dots that I'm seeing. This is all just radar, like, what do they call that? Radar static. What is most reliable warning alert? Weather radio, iPhone, Alexa. So your weather radio is technically always going to be your most reliable alert because it never has a chance of going down. I mean, everything. Let me rephrase that. Everything has a chance of going down, but a cell tower is more likely to get hit than a weather radio tower. So technically, the safest and best bet warning method would be a weather radio certified by NOAA. Margaret, I appreciate that. Yes, I've talked about the tornado warning in Meade County. It's literally for the top 2.1 miles of Meade County and closest to the Indiana border. If you're in any other part of the 98% of Meade County, you're fine. Let's go take a look at this once again. Oh, that's on tilt too. Maybe that's why I'm not seeing it. There it goes a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of rotation there, and it is starting to have. Let me pull this down so you guys can see a little bit better. It is starting to have that look to it. So you're gonna have this hook right here. If this keeps continuing to form, this will be a problem. But let's just go in. Let's stay online here now. Technically, not really for Kentucky. I mean, there is one little square mile in Kentucky that's included for, but nothing too crazy there. Let's go back over here, check on this Eastern Kentucky one that's exiting the state. So we're not going to touch it too much. Let's take a little quick look out here. So you see the difference here between this one and the other one. See how the colors are closer together and a lot more bright. I still don't think this is anything super impressive because there's not really a hook to it. But that's some pretty solid rotations. Also some pretty solid rotation out here exiting Flemingsburg, heading toward Vanceburg, Kentucky, out there in far northeastern portions of the state. So that's kind of how it's looking out there. Overall, elsewhere in the state, nothing going crazy just yet. Still waiting on initiation to occur. So this one's starting to get that hook to it. So let's keep taking a look at this one. I'm going to leave it up on the in here. Why is my? We're gonna cut the main screen out tonight. I don't even feel like dealing with it. Let's zoom in right here. Boom. There we go. It's this one's really trying to become tornadic. So we're gonna watch this for a second. Now, really, this is not going to impact Kentucky at all, so we don't have to watch it. But I'm gonna just keep an eye on it real quickly. What do you mean by hook? I've heard this term before, but I don't know what it means. That's a great question. So, if you look on a radar, right? Let's take this one for example, right? This is just a bubble storm. Looks like a bubble, right? Nothing really to it. If you look at this one, you can tell there's got a hook on this backside, or what we refer to as a backwards comma. Basically, in that hook is where rotation likes to spin up. So usually when you get that hook, and you start to see rotation on the velocity charts here, that's pretty indicative that at the least rotation is strong and occurring. Now, obviously, we cannot know if a storm is actually dropping a tornado just looking at radar. But usually when you start to see that hook and you start to see things spinning on the velocity charts, winds, by the way, that spinning is for example this right here. So you see how we have all this red. These are inbound winds toward the radar. This green is outbound winds away from the radar. When you get that red and green lined up next to each other inside of that hook, that means winds are going the opposite way, and that hook is giving them space to spin. On this side of the cell, you have the inflow. It's kicking into the storm, and it'll wrap around and kick into that storm, and that's what's making it spin. So that's kind of how we define the hook, and that's how we look for things on radar, if you ever were curious. Yes, Elizabeth, the underage tornado watch until 3 a.m. Eastern Time. Holly, I appreciate you sharing it with your family. Thank you so much. 3 a.m. Eastern Time, Leanne, is when the tornado watch drops for Louisville. It's cool and cloudy in Bath County. Is it a good thing or bad? Quite frankly, it doesn't really matter at this point what the cloudy or sunny conditions look like. I just know that the energy is in place for all of Kentucky. You're talking about like, can you actually see this occurring in person or only on radar, Caitlin? I'm kind of confused by your question. Elizabethtown is under 8, trying to watch till 3 a.m. Eastern Time, Connie. Okay. All right, let's keep it. Let's look at this once more here. Okay. I'm not really seeing anything with this one, and it's also outside of Kentucky, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. The other one over here is heading outside of Kentucky now. I wanted to keep this real brief here. I will go live once again when things start getting hazardous in Kentucky. I want to make sure that you guys know when we are live, it is for an impactful reason. I don't want to just sit here and yap with waste time here. There's new analysis coming in. We're going to decipher that, get that out to you guys. When things start popping off again, we will be live on YouTube and Facebook once more. And again, while we're off as well, I'll keep taking a look at these and making sure that everything is okay. Until next time, stay safe, Kentucky. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with WNK. I'm sure we'll be joining you again later on tonight. Until then, just relax. Just relax. It'll be okay. We're going to be here for you guys.